Hello everyone. Today we're going to make a reaction to geography now. And so this is about Norway this time. And I also wanted to say about Norway. I love Norway. It's my favorite country in Europe. And also I might have Norwegian side on my family, but I'm not really sure if you believe me or not. But let's just begin. And I want to also to state all the reaction videos to geography now are fair use, all right? Fair use. Even though I didn't add them in the description, but there are still fair use. So let's just begin.
Hey everyone, so I'm excited for this
Hello.
one. We recently did a geography in Oslo, Norway, and I had the honor to meet many of you guys, Norwegian geographies, in your own country. It was amazing. Norway is a country
Okay.
everyone has kind of heard about, something about
I'll be,
snow, ice, Vikings,
honestly, I
skiing,
will
a
be
few
using
trolls, but
Norwegian
Norway is also
flag
a
as
land
the
of highly compounded history, tradition,
honestly
postmodernism,
I
and above
I
all,
was going to
landscape
say I
and
was
people.
going to use
And black metal. Yes, Keith is really excited for this episode.
I'm gonna use Norwegian flag as the thumbnail, so let's learn
Hello, I'm
about
your host
this.
Barbs. We've done Denmark, Finland, Iceland, and now the fourth Nordic sister, Norway. Now, in the
Norway.
Nordic countries, Norway would kind of be like the one that everyone either tries to call their best friend or date. She smiles at the ground, pulls her hair behind her ear, and looks up with those sky blue doe eyes that sparkle and says, "Welcome to Norway."
Then one, let's just see.
Norway plays a huge role in what it means to be Northern European. And when you look at it on the map, you'll see that it's fascinating how well they developed the civil infrastructure from a rugged, half-frozen peninsula. Oh, and there's a town called Hell. First of all, the country, which kind of looks like the shape of a spoon,
I
is located
see.
in Northern Europe in the region known as Scandinavia, just above the North Sea, bordering mostly Sweden to the east, Finland in the far north, and even a small sliver of Russia at the very end.
see.
This effectively means that Norway goes even further
This
east
is
than
educational
Finland and gets
video.
the entire Arctic coast from their
Okay.
neighbors, sharing the Barents Sea with Russia. Apart from that, Norway has some overseas territories as well, two of which are in the Arctic Circle, the Svalbard archipelago with only about 3,000 people, mostly in the largest town Longyearbyen, and the uninhabited Jan Mayen Island, which was actually kind of traded with the UK for these islands in Canada in like 1930 when Canada was still British. Weird trade-off, but okay. After that, they have two dependent territories, the Antarctic areas of Peter I Island and Bouvet Island, way down south, neither of which are permanently inhabited, and they also claim a portion of Antarctica known as Queen Maud Land. Going back to the mainland, though, the country is currently, as of 2019, divided into 17 counties, or fylker, plus the unincorporated area of
2019.
Svalbard.
Well,
Which, by the
it's
way, marks the
2026,
northernmost
which is
permanently
20.
inhabited settlement in the world,
This
with a
was
population around
7 years
40 in the
ago,
winter and
probably.
120 in the summer. The thing is, in
Honestly.
2020, the country will merge some of these counties into 11 regions. Already, North and South Trondelag have merged, and the final result in 2020 will look like this. The country's largest city and capital is Oslo, located in the southeast, which also holds the largest airport, Oslo Lufthavn International, as well as Oslo Shipping Port.
Thor from Edgeworld is also
Skip to the
Norwegian.
west, you find the second largest city, Bergen, with of course the second largest airport, Bergen International. It is said that almost around 80% of the country lives within 10 kilometers of the ocean, and despite the rugged mountainous terrain, the nation has an extensive network of roads, bridges, and trains that cross virtually every region of the nation, including the Lærdal Tunnel, the world's longest road tunnel that stretches 24 kilometers long, cutting through a mountain, and also the famous Atlantic Road that hops from island to island in the Møre og Romsdal County. Now, what's really fascinating is that Norway kind of went from this to this, and for a nation that has never surpassed 5.5
Norway
million
is really
population,
rich.
it's pretty impressive. How did this happen, though? Well, as the legend goes, in the 60s, Denmark was like,
"Hey, Norway, you are just the best. I love you, man, and just to prove it, I'm gonna give you all this ocean water stuff."
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Danish and Norwegian are very similar languages.
Whoa, there's like a ton of oil here. Thanks, Denmark. Actually, it was the Geneva Convention like 10 years prior to that, but that story's kind of boring. Now, as you can clearly tell, Norway has lots of access to the ocean. Due to all the serrated inlets and fjords, plus islands, they have the 7th largest coastline in the world. This also means that roads and bridges can only take you so far. In order to get around in Norway's west coast, you'll see a lot, and I mean a lot, of ferries and ships. And what's cool is that, like some of their neighbors, Norway has a free roaming law in which you can pretty much camp out anywhere in nature as long as it is not on private property. We all know some towns in Norway are situated in the most picturesque locations. Some, like this town, have no direct sunlight for 6 months because of the mountains, so they built giant mirrors to illuminate them. Fun fact, Longyearbyen is known for being both the brightest and darkest place on Earth. Because of its location on the Arctic Circle, it gets 110 continuous days of no sunshine and 95 days of no night. Also, they have an emergency seed bank with over 1 million specimens built into the side of the mountain in case of the apocalypse.
In different places and countries have different timelines.
It's illegal to die in Svalbard because of the permafrost. Bodies do not decompose, so you must either ship out your body or cremate it. Not sure how to segue out of that. Cool places. Now I asked some of you
Okay,
guys
let's
in the
see.
geography what some of the
Let's
top
skip that.
places to
Let's
visit in
just
Norway
focus
are,
on
and here are
the
some of the suggestions
places.
you gave. Nordkapp, the Viking Ship Museum, Nidaros Cathedral, the Dock of Bergen, the King's Castle, Alta's Igloo Hotel, Frogner Park, and Vigeland Sculpture Park. Try to find the one with the dude fighting the babies. This fortress, this Iron Age farm, the world's largest moose sculpture, this whaling museum, the Roald Amundsen and Edward Munch monuments and grave, the Kontiki Museum, the Polaria Aquarium, the Ager Viking-style brewery, the Three Swords Monument. So many traditional stave churches, but this one is probably the most famous one. I mean, there's like 1 billion rocks named after body parts of trolls. There's that weird boulder jammed between 2 cliffs, a mountain with a hole in it so it looks like it got shot by a gun. So many ice caves, the world's strongest whirlpool. So many fjords like Geiranger Fjord, Nordfjord, Hardanger Fjord, Trollfjord, Harrison Fjord. They were even supposed to give Finland the peak of Mount Halti for their 100th birthday, but then it was kind of like, happy 100th birthday, Finland!
Thanks, Norway. So I heard that you're thinking of finally giving me the peak to my tallest mountain, right?
Oh yeah, sure, why not?
Awesome. Well, then, let me have it.
Oh, see, there's this thing in my constitution called Article 1, which states that the Kingdom of Norway is indivisible, so
here's a taco. Yeah, Norwegians actually really love tacos, which makes the perfect opportunity to transition into...
Okay, let's go to physical
Now, if you know
geography.
anything about Norway's land, you'll know this one word. Fjords.
Fjords.
The word is even Norwegian. And it's interesting how it became that way. Basically, like many other areas in the north, the country is a post-glacial peninsula with over 50,000 islands that at one point was...
This is a very interesting
ice.
episode.
Over time, the ice melted,
So tomorrow I was going to
creating
do
the
Iceland,
incredibly
so...
indented coastline of steep, jagged cliffs and fjords. Of the coast, the largest and deepest fjord is Sognefjord, and it is the third largest in the world, extending over 200 kilometers inland. This means that much of the country is divided into regions of choppy fjord stuff to the west and the connected hilly
Well, honestly, my family could have started in Norway, but I'm not sure if would you believe me, but I wasn't really from Sweden. I lied about being from Sweden. I really apologize for it. Okay, let's see.
The North Sea to the south. This is called the NCS, or Norwegian Continental Shelf. Here, the largest deposit of underwater oil is found that supplies Norway with much of its wealth. A skip to the east, you find the largest lake, Lake Mjøsa, which is just parallel to the longest river in the country, the Glomma, which drains all the way into the North Sea in the south and has a drainage basin that covers about 13% of the country's land. A little skip to the west, in the center, you find the longest and most dominant mountain chain, the Scandinavian Mountains, where you can find the tallest peak, Galdhøpiggen, which is also the tallest in all of the Nordics. If we are discussing the overseas territories, then Svalbard is pretty much an Arctic archipelago of glaciers, this one being the largest in all of Europe, and the rest are mostly just polar bears.
Polar bears and walrus lives in Norway, in fact.
In Norway. The Berenberg Peak last erupted in 1980. Otherwise, if we skip all the way south to the Antarctic, Bouvet and Peter I Islands are dormant volcanic islands, Bouvet considered the most remote island in the world, and both of which are nearly completely covered in ice and only inhabited by seals and birds. Now, keep in mind about the oil thing, though, although they export lots of it, gas is actually still super expensive.
Well, the thumbnail would be the
as of 2019,
Norwegian
it is just
flag.
over 17.2 kron per liter, making it one of the most expensive places to get gas in the world. I don't want to talk about it. This is partially because in 1990, they initiated the Government Pension Fund Global. This is a national wealth fund run by the government to subsidize pensions when oil dependence runs dry. Now, Norway has lots of natural resources and clever ways of managing them, making them somewhat of a paragon for development few other nations can compare with.
challenge accepted.
But for what it's worth, they have a unique system locked in. And now it is time for my triple shot of espresso break. Usually this is the part where Noah comes in, but Noah is out of town. So let's give this to Keith.
Now,
The
everyone knows
interest
that
looks
Norway is
similar to
quite a prosperous
1960s
nation,
Batman.
but just how prosperous is it? Let's just put it this way:
Hmm.
they export more than they import, not just in
Well,
petroleum products. Fish alone makes up about 10% of their exports, and they are the highest exporter of salmon out of any other country in the world.
I just love Voss water. It's expensive and it's Norwegian, so you know it probably came from like a mystical glacier or something.
Yeah, no, that's basically just our tap water. I wash my dishes with that stuff every day.
But it's expensive and Norwegian.
And you fell for it.
Ha! Y'all just got tricked.
Otherwise, the majority of the energy in Norway
Let's
comes
see.
from hydroelectric power. Norway became one of the first countries to adopt a carbon tax back in 1991. Although cutting down trees is still
1991.
done on a smaller scale, they were the first country to ban deforestation. They have Europe's largest herd of reindeer. They have lots of birds like puffins, whales, and
Puffins,
orcas love
whales,
swimming off the
orcas.
coast. In the Arctic, you can find polar bears and walruses. And now,
I was right.
food. Norwegian food is known for being either really nice, warm, and cozy, or straight up disgusting. They love their fish. You have some interesting fish dishes like lutefisk and rockfisk. Some other dishes
Rockfisk?
include things like various types of porridge,
Porridge.
pickled herring,
Pickled.
kumla, reindeer made in various ways, meatballs in brown sauce, kroomkake, brown cheese, these Christmas dishes, and the national dish, fårikål. However, if you ask a Norwegian, they might tell you the new national dish of Norway is tacos. They might have some questionable ingredients on the table for you to add,
I
like
see.
mayonnaise or cucumbers. And I mean, come on, Mexico, even you break your own rules all the time and mix things up in your own country. So let the Norwegians have their fun. And speaking of
I see.
Norwegians, have fun.
Oh, and speaking of Norwegians having fun.
And speaking of Norwegians having fun,
Okay, let's do this.
Thank you, Keith. Norwegians have a saying. They are born with skis. The word even comes from the ancient Norse word skith, which means
Skith.
split wood. If there was any kind of apex cold winter type of people on Earth, Norwegians would take the gold. And they literally do take the gold. Like, they have more Winter Olympic gold medals than any other country. First of all, the country has about 5.3 million people, and as of 2018, has the highest human development index out of any country in the world. At about 84%, the country is made up primarily of people that identify as ethnically Norwegian.
I might have
including 60,000 indigenous Sami people.
Norwegian,
About 8.3%
but
of the
I'm not sure if
population
you
is of
believe me
European
that.
descent, mostly Western Europe, and the remaining population is made up of other people groups from outside of Europe, from various regions of Africa, Asia, mostly from countries like Pakistan, Somalia, Morocco, Iraq, and Kurdish people. They use the Norwegian krone as their currency, they use the type C and F plug outlets, and they drive on the right side of the road. Interesting to note that they are not part of the EU, but part of the European Economic Area and Free Trade
Along with
Association.
Iceland,
In fact, Norway
Liechtenstein.
is a kingdom, currently under the headship of King Harald V. However, his role is mostly representative and ceremonial. His executive powers are limited, and most government is ruled by the parliament. Essentially, though, although some would argue Vikings kind of started in Denmark, it really kicked off in Norway. Norwegian Vikings did kind of all the exploring and colonizing and raiding and killing, Viking stuff. And no, they did not wear helmets with horns. Language-wise, Norway actually has two official languages, Norwegian and Sami, the language of the minority northern indigenous peoples that have lived in the frigid regions for millennia. The Norwegian language, however, is kind of confusing, though, because it kind of has two different writing systems that everybody must learn in school, Nynorsk and Bokmål. What exactly
Bokmål,
are they?
mhm.
Well, it kind of goes like this.
Norsk.
we've been in a union with the Danish for centuries, and now they are gone. We can speak our own language freely.
Woohoo! But we've been writing our language in the Danish style for so long. I mean, what do we do? Do we change it?
Hi, I'm Ivo Olsen, and I say yes. I'm going to listen to all the dialects of Norwegian and come up with a weird fusion thing that can work for everyone. I'll call it Nynorsk. We can teach it in
Nynorsk.
schools, and everyone can be free of Danish influence. And today, the Danish-style bokmål is still used by about 85% of the population. Weird side note, the word ha can mean almost anything in Norway. For example, ha, 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 ha. Speaking of which, like many of their other neighbors, Norwegians have 13 years of school, graduating at age 19. And when Norwegians are just about ready to take their final exams, they go on a 3-week party called Russ. And just look it up. Norway has lots of different dialects. Here are some of you guys, Norwegian geography peeps, explaining.
På standardnorsk ville jeg sagt hvordan, men i Olsens område ville jeg sagt hvordan.
Korsen.
My name is Talina. In standard Norwegian, you might say våres.
Våres.
But in Egersund area, you say okkas.
In the
Okkas.
West, you could say gysla løye, da. And in
Gysla
the North,
eller hva?
maybe korate.
Korrekt.
Oslo, you would say something along the lines of det er ikke lett. Skjønner
Det er
du?
ikke så
Trøndelag County, det er
Drungen.
ikke lett. sjø.
So in standard Norwegian, you would say søppel, but
Søppel.
in Bergen we say oss.
Thank
Both.
you. Otherwise, there are so many other things
Okay.
you guys, the Norwegian geography peeps, wanted us to talk about in terms of your culture. And here is Random Hannah with culture stuff.
Norway is a land loaded with tradition and folklore. Many of you have already heard of things like trolls and elves, but there's also scary beings like the Holdra, Nattmara, and the Nuken. Pretty much all Norwegians are outdoorsy people. Hiking and cross-country skiing are national pastimes, hands down. Almost everyone owns some kind of Mari sweater, made of wool with traditional patterns knitted onto the upper parts, usually in the national colors of red, white, and blue. Many Norwegians own small cabins in the woods, and they actually like to brag about how bad their cabins can be. As in how technologically disconnected they are, with the least amenities. No Wi-Fi, no electricity, no plumbing. You're hardcore. Speaking of bragging, in Norway it's considered super cool to come back from vacation and show off your tan, because it's kind of hard to get a tan in Norway. The Nobel Peace Prize is also awarded in Oslo every year. In Norway, everyone's income and wealth is on public record, mostly. But for what it's worth, the nation does this to help prevent tax evasion. And finally, we cannot skip the bunads. These are traditional costumes of Norway that come in so many different varieties based on the region and town you are from. They are mostly worn for special occasions, especially for May 17th, the country's national day, where they march to the castle in Oslo.
Yeah. All right, get out of here. I want to talk about
May
music.
17 was
Traditionally,
also
Norwegians have their
Chuck E.
own
Cheese was
regional
founded
folk
in
music
San
and
Jose,
dances
California.
called bugdedans. Traditional
Bugatti
instruments
dance.
include things like dulcimers, goat horn, willow flute. The traditional
I
folk
forgot.
music eventually found a way to fuse with one of the most popular genres of Norway today, metal, or specifically Norwegian folk metal bands. Not only
Metal.
that, but black metal was started supposedly in Norway, and it has since been a domineering genre many people have been playing for decades. That's it for me.
Thank you again, Steve.
Anyway,
Anyway, we're gonna
let's
move on.
focus on that
History, in the
episode.
quickest way I can put it, Viking Age. This dude unites Norway into one kingdom. Vikings invade and take over a ton of other places like England. Christianity, Old Kingdom, Black Plague, Union of Kalmar, Denmark takes over, Lutheranism, Sweden takes over, Constitution established, first wave of immigrants to America, they finally leave Sweden, World War I, neutral, women's suffrage, World War II, neutral again, but Germany doesn't care, joins NATO and European Free Trade Association, oil boom, they vote and reject EU membership, host the Winter Olympics in Lillehammer, largest underwater gas pipeline in the world open, Oslo grows and more immigrants come in, and here we are today. I asked you Norwegian geographers for some notable people from Norway or of Norwegian descent, and here are some of the ones you suggested we put in this video. Eric the Red, Storm, past Vikings and King, blah blah blah. Edvard Grieg, Edvard Munch, these
Edvard Munch
runners,
is the
these
painter.
cross-country skiers, Roald Amundsen, Magnus Carlsen, Max Magnus, Thor Heyerdahl, Fridtjof Nansen, so many musicians like these people, as well as actors like these people, and of course the royal family. Seriously though, did you guys watch the movie Kon-Tiki? It's pretty good. I mean, his migration theory was still kind of mostly wrong, but hey, you did a cool thing, man. And that's the thing about Norwegians. They're so globally intrepid. They reach out to the four corners, and with that, they've also made a lot of friends. Which brings us to
the friend zone. Let's learn about Norway's friends.
Norwegians are known for being very level-headed and nice, but they do know who they support and stand by no matter what. First of all, Switzerland is kind of like the weird alternate parallel universe twin that shares a lot in common with
They're
them.
both
They both
rich.
are not part of the EU. They both are very financially stable yet expensive to live in. They both have mountains and snow, and they both have similar values in general affairs. They get along pretty well and enjoy sharing the ski stories. The UK is a very close friend, especially Scotland due to their shared Viking history. They even give them a Christmas tree every year to say thanks for helping in World War II when their king and government were taken in from exile as the Germans tried to invade. Nepal has close ties. As another mountain nation, they've taken much interest and send much aid to their programs. High-profile politicians have visited in the past, like the Minister of Environmental Development, Eric Solheim, and the Prime Minister of Nepal visited Norway as well. For the USA, they have a very close connection, not only in diplomacy, government, and business, but specifically to the diaspora living in the USA, and specifically the state of Minnesota. Nearly 1 million Norwegian Americans live in this one state alone. The USA holds more people of Norwegian heritage than any other country outside of Norway, with almost as many as there are in Norway. They even have a game show called Alt for Norge, in which Norwegian Americans see the homeland of their ancestors. They cry and act way too dramatic, which is entertaining. The winner gets to meet their Norwegian relatives, and the losers get a book telling them information, but they don't get to meet their relatives, which is kind of messed up, but it's a game show, what do you expect? Anyway, when it comes to their best friends, pretty much what I've heard is a mix between all the Nordics, but specifically Iceland, Denmark, and Sweden. Iceland is like their party friend they love to go on adventures with. They're also kind of like
both have similar flags.
that their ancestors colonized, which holds a dear dear spot in their hearts. Today they have a defense agreement that allows the Norwegian Air Force to survey and patrol the Icelandic airspace as well. Denmark and Norway, however, are always kind of fighting for Norway's affection. Both these nations in the past have fought each other and ruled over Norway under separate kingdoms. All three countries were at one point part of the Kalmar Union. They can
Kalmar
relatively
Union?
understand each other when they talk.
I
Swedish is
see.
closer to Norwegian though. They are all part of NATO, the Council of Europe, and many people from each of these nations end up marrying and having families together. In conclusion, Norway's prosperity doesn't stop with their will for gritty cold adventure. They've scaled the
Yeah.
South Pole, the icebergs, the glaciers, and the tundras. It's almost as if the ice keeps them warm. Stay tuned. Oh my.
Goodbye.